Jim, the market is melting down this morning. It seemed like for a couple of days we were starting to calm things down, but now here we are again. We've got European banks melting down. Again, fear in the market. So is this real fear? Is this just computer trading?
And that's the question. And, you know, Deborah, I got heated this morning on TV because it's difficult to report on these issues. Because you want to report, one, on what people are doing and reacting to. And then secondarily, you can say whether that reaction you think is ultimately going to be correct. So there are people who are very fearful of European banks because the lead story in the Wall Street Journal is literally that some bank needed help over there. So then if you want to dismiss that story and say it's untrue, that's fine. I can. I understand that story to be true. So someone is in trouble over there. Now, that means someone could be the next Lehman. I also want to point out that the authorities understand the consequences of a Lehman and will do what's necessary to stop it. In other words, so Lehman is two parts. Lehman is a bank that was really in far more trouble, so it was going to fail, and that it was too big to fail. So you got a two-parter. Maybe there's a bank that really needs to be bailing out. Maybe it's the equivalent of a city here, okay? And the authorities will do that. Now, I don't have as much faith in the authorities over there to react as I do ours, because ours have lived through it. But you have to have a belief that they've learned. And I think there's always a chance that they didn't learn. That was part of the debate this morning I had on CNBC. Did they learn? I think they did. But you have to understand that that's what people are reacting to, is fear that their money will be tied up in a bankruptcy of a bank.
Well, and I had also heard that not only was there a very dire situation, or perceived to be a dire situation.
Perceived. I mean, again, these are all we got to,
you know, we had the issue with SocGen supposedly selling gold to raise capital. I was hearing that our banks didn't want to lend to these banks anymore, that they said, you know what, that's it, I'm done. I'm not lending to these European banks because they're a little too dodgy right now, a little too much risk. We're not supposed to be taking on risk. And that our government's going to hammer them and say, no, you got to lend to them.
Well,
and then what are they going to do?
It has to be two-part.
What do you do if you're Jamie Dimon and Tim Geithner calls you and says, you got to lend to that SocGen?
Well, I think that if you knew that Trichet was going to step up and say, look, none of these banks are going to go under. Okay, none of them. We're going to take over them. We will put a lot of people in. We'll put capital in. It's safe to do intrabank lending to these guys, interbank lending. Then you do lend. But I'm not hearing that. I understand that. I believe they have a plan ready. But you know, this is not Tim Geithner. It's not someone who watched Lehman go under and realized, wow, we didn't take action. Okay, these are people who have not really been that forthcoming the whole way. Like, they had not been forthcoming about the problems with Greece, how bad. They haven't been forthcoming about how Societe Generale has a huge percentage of a book, market-making book. And maybe that, you know, if you have an option trade with them, you want to close it down because you're worried that they might not fund it. Lehman, the legacy of Lehman lives on with the customers, but it lives on with the governments. And the customers may be fearful, but the governments can step in and say, look, you know, we hear all these rumors. Let me just tell you, we've learned from 2008. That's what they need to do. They haven't done it.
Right. It seems like the rumor mill is on fire, and now we're living with it.
But you can end the rumor mill not by doing a short ban, because unless you raise capital, it doesn't work. You end it by saying, look, we saw the lessons. We're not going to let it happen. We don't want it to happen, and believe me, we will punish the bankers. They will lose all their equity. They will lose their money. But you won't as a customer, and not just as a depositor. That's how you get out of this.